Hi everyone, welcome to my channel if you're new here. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer or subscriber. I'm really excited about today's video because it's going to be my TBR for autumn, my fall TBR, all the books that I want to get through this season. I have many books to mention here. Some of you might think this is a little bit overambitious, but I'm kind of willing to just like throw everything I've got into reading. I just feel like tackling some of the books I've been putting off, particularly focusing on reads that are kind of like dark academia, fantasy, basically with slightly like mystery elements. I feel like that could be fun. I don't have any dark thrillers on here, but there are some on my shelves if I want to get to that. But mostly we've just got very kind of atmospheric reads that are maybe a little bit spooky, and I'm really excited to get to all of them. All ones that I've had on my physical TBR for a very long time. The first two books I'd like to mention are ones that I've actually I haven't already read them, but like I put them on my September TBR, so these are ones I've already like told you I'm going to read, so I'll run through these quicker than the others perhaps. But the first is Just Kids by Patti Smith. This is a book that I have been wanting to read for years and years and years. I have more than enough reason to pick this up. I just haven't got around to it. I've just been putting off. I don't even have any reason. It's just because I never get around to it. It just doesn't work out. So this September, I have to read this. If not throughout the season, this will definitely be read. Otherwise, I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. But yeah, this is Patti Smith's memoir. It's her book that actually won the National Book Award, which is insane. Like, to be that successful as a singer-songwriter and then to also be able to win a literary prize, such a prestigious one. I'm really impressed by this book, and I haven't even started it, but I've heard nothing but incredible things about this from everybody, particularly people on Bookstagram. I'm really excited to finally pick it up this season. I feel like this book just suits the autumn time. It just looks that way to me. Next up, another book that's on my September TBR. By the way, both of these books were picked by my TBR jar, as I've been doing in all of the months throughout this year, I think, except January. But we've got one for February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and hopefully throughout the rest of the year as well. But this is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is a book that is inarguably for this season. It is set in Vermont, which is, you know, East Coast New York, what the heck? East Coast America, United States. I feel like it's just kind of like seeped in that sort of atmosphere, so I feel like this will be so beautiful to pick up. On top of this, this follows this girl who's at this like private school. She's at this private academy, and she is exploring a cold case that actually took place, I believe, either at her school or in her area or something like that. So we've got the dark academia setting, we've got the spooky mystery vibes, and we also have the beautiful Vermont. It's another book that I've had on my TBR for like forever, and I've just never got around to it because I never get to it in the season. So this season is all about getting through the books that I say I'm going to read every single year and I never ever get to. Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I'm so beyond excited about this. Sounds great. Apologies if you can hear my brother blasting Fontaine's DC, Wonder Horse, all of those. He's making his lunch, and that's the regular occurrence, but I don't mind. It's nice to have some like background noise for me, but hopefully the mic doesn't pick up on it. The next book I'm so excited for, very kindly Titan Comics reached out and asked me if I would like to receive a copy of Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze. This is a graphic novel. I'm like a big fan of Titan. I think they do some incredible things. They have really unique, innovative kind of ideas in terms of like the storylines of their work, but also like the art style and everything like that. I think they're making moves basically. So I was more than excited to discover that this was even going to be a thing, let alone that they wanted to send it to me. I feel like this is perfect for like my content. It's like bridging music with books, which is kind of what I love to do on here, as you probably will know if you've watched a video or two before. I've read a few different graphic novels in my lifetime, but I feel like this was perfect timing because one of the books I recently got to was a comic book. I read it in my 24-hour readathon video. That was such a fun experience, as well as breaking up the like monotony of reading physically, you know, like reading a novel. I really enjoyed like exploring the art style, and the different format just like really worked for me. I feel like I came out of that wanting to explore more graphic novels and comics and manga and things like that. However, it wasn't something that I knew what to rate because I just hadn't read enough books kind of in that style, so I'm really excited to kind of broaden my horizons by picking up this book and hopefully having the best time with it. But if you're interested, I'll tell you a little bit about what this book contains, because I heard the concept and I was like, yeah, sign me up, this sounds fantastic. This 21st century psychedelic rock and roll odyssey sees Jimi Hendrix embark on a quest to the very center of the universe in search of a magical talisman, powerful enough to unlock the incredible latent power of his music so that he can share it with a universe starved of the rock and roll by a tyrannical intergalactic force hell-bent on silencing all music from the universe and enslaving all life. I just love this idea of this like real life thing of like Jimi Hendrix having existed and having brought so much life into rock and roll like as a music genre, and done so much within that for the kind of type of music but also for music in general. And the fact that this book has kind of taken what he did contextually within history, but then like run with it into like this grand space opera. I just think it sounds fantastic. It's so original and unique in concept, but also I think it's just ingenious basically. So I'm really excited to give this a go, and I'm really excited to share my thoughts with you as soon as I finished reading it. So thank you so much to Titan Comics for gifting me this. This is not sponsored, by the way, to be clear. They just passed it my way because they thought it might be something that I would be interested in, and I very much am. I have a couple of absolute, you know, like OG classic books that you just can't go this season without thinking about, without crossing your mind, without finding them within pop culture or whatever it may be. Hundreds, thousands of people, if not more than that, will be reading these books this season, and I want to be doing that too. And they are Dracula by Bram Stoker and Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I am yet to read either of these books, which I feel like is such a crime. I think we'll start with Dracula though. So last year I started reading this. I started reading it via audiobook. The audiobook was fantastic. The storyline was so, I don't want to say atmospheric because I keep saying that, but like it was very immersive. I was really enjoying my time with it, except for the fact that I was like, so many good quotes. I really want to own this book physically and annotate it. So I'll either, you know, read this entirely physically or be able to listen to the audiobook as I read along, because I just didn't want to miss the opportunity of reading Dracula for the first time and not absolutely consuming the story in a way that felt like more interactive than just passively listening to an audiobook. Dracula is just like, you know, the OG vampire book, like not the very first introduction we got to a vampire, but it's one that we look back on and we see what it did for the genre of horror, but also for vampires as like a figure, as a being, as like a mythical creature in general, or a supernatural creature. This beautiful edition, by the way, is the Penguin Classics Deluxe edition. My brother bought it for me last year, and I'm beyond excited to finally explore the story of Dracula and hopefully have the best time with it this October, I'm thinking. And then Frankenstein, another book that I feel like is perfect for this season, although perhaps maybe more, I'm thinking of November read, but we'll see about that. Again, I have a lovely edition of this one. Harper Muse Classics Painted Editions. This is just so beautiful. Like it's so textured and raised, and it has these gilded edges, and all the way throughout the book it actually highlights various quotes as they're featured in these kind of like art pages. I'm so excited for this book. I think if I had to pick which one of these I was going to connect with more, I think it probably would be Frankenstein, just because I feel like the kind of philosophical themes, the discussions that will be had within this book will feel slightly more nuanced to me. It's just kind of more up my street, so I'm really, really beyond excited to pick up Frankenstein and to finally read it as well. Two massive classics in terms of their scope and their vision, but also their impact on society and culture and everything like that I really, really love to tick off this year. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. When you think of like dark academia as like a subgenre, or what has become like a genre, or like an internet phenomenon, you probably think of The Secret History first, and then you most likely will think of If We Were Villains second. I read The Secret History a couple of years ago, and I very much enjoyed my experience with that. It was a 4-star read overall. Not my favourite book in the world, but one that I definitely had a lot of fun with. This one sounds fantastic too. And I'm also told that if you're not like absolutely obsessed with The Secret History, then you're often absolutely obsessed with If We Were Villains. So I would like that to be me as well. This one is a dark academia like murder mystery book following these students. They're all thespians, so they're all in a kind of Shakespearean society, or they just put on plays all the time. Always Shakespeare. They're absolute nerds, you know, that this is their Shakespeare is their one true love. I think their investment in like education and this like desire for knowledge leads to a very dramatic crime. I think it actually results in someone's murder. I believe we start this book with someone already in jail, then we go back in time and we see whether they're actually innocent or whether they indeed did the crime. Again, another book I've been putting up for too long, and one that I desperately cannot wait to read this season. We have a romance book. I am not in the mood for romance, I won't lie to you. It's just not something that, I feel like I've read a lot of them recently, and the phase I'm at in life right now is just not suited to that. But there is one romance book that I've been putting off only because I wanted to wait for the perfect time to read it, and I feel like the perfect time has arrived, and that is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. So Francine Rivers, primarily a Christian fiction author, but this piece of hers actually kind of broke into the secular culture. It says here like over 1 million copies. And I've heard like nothing but incredible things about this book from reviewers who, you know, whether they have a faith or not, everybody seems to really enjoy this one. I believe it's based on the story of Hosea in the Bible. I'll just read you that because I don't really know a lot about this, just that it's got a really pure, beautiful love. It's based on like the love God has for this woman who's very broken, reluctant to like open her heart back up to love. Angel expects nothing from men but betrayal. Sold into prostitution as a child, she survives by keeping her hatred alive. Then she meets Michael Hosea, a man who seeks his father's heart in everything. Day by day, he defies Angel's every bitter expectation until, despite her resistance, her heart begins to thaw. but with her unexpected softening come overwhelming feelings of unworthiness and fear. I just think it'd be nice to read about happy true love that has really good intentions, and I'm ready for this book, I believe. I don't know, if I ever feel like a romance book, this is the one I shall be kind of gravitating towards this season, but we'll see whether I get to any of these books, to be honest. But particularly this one I feel like I might not read for a little while, but if I'm in the mood for romance at any point, I'm thinking this is the one that I'm most likely to pick up. I'm really hoping that made sense. Next up I have Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Also probably a book that I'm most unlikely to get to. Given all these books, this one I feel like is kind of lowest on my list of priorities, but just because it's long and the font's tiny, and I got gifted this actually from Sarah, whose channel I'll have linked down below. And then I picked up a sequel a little while ago, so I kind of have had a bigger push to pick it up more recently, but I still feel like maybe the time hasn't come for this, but we'll see if I get to it. If I am in the mood for it, then this could be fun. This is like a retelling of the Arthurian legends. It's inspired by those tales, and again it's another like dark academia book that's set at a school, I believe. After her mother dies in an accident, 16-year-old Bree Matthews wants to escape. A residential program for bright high schoolers seems like the perfect opportunity until she witnesses a magical attack her very first night on campus. The major's failure unlocks Bree's own unique magic and a buried memory from the night her mother died. Now Bree will do whatever it takes to discover the truth, even infiltrate the Legendborn. But when the Legendborn reveal themselves as the descendants of King Arthur's knights and foretell a magical war, Bree must decide how far she'll go for the truth. Should she use her magic to take the society down or join the fight? I have heard that from a lot of people who don't read YA fantasy, this one is like really incredible, and I believe that's because it's like got this really kind of unique plot, but at the same time it's like discussing really vitally important topics such as discrimination and racial prejudice. A cool setting to explore such, you know, like relevant topics to today. So that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Like I said, I'll see whether I get around to this, and if I do, I will of course let you know my thoughts. I am a huge fan of the Spiderwick film. The film that came out, I think it was 2007. Massive fan. Like one of my favourite ever childhood films. I've been seeing it in the cinema originally and fell in love with it then, still in love with it now. Generally do like either like a yearly rewatch or like a twice yearly rewatch, something like that. But I've never actually read the book series that the film was based on. So I very much feel like now it's about time that I did. The film was actually 5 books, I believe, that were all put into one film. The first book, The Field Guide, I read that a few months ago, or maybe even last year. No, I think it was the beginning of this year. And I enjoyed it. It definitely felt incomplete because of the fact that the film had all of the stories together in one. So it felt like it just dropped off at like a random point and I didn't get the rest of the tale. Even though I knew what would happen, I just felt like I'd benefit much more from having read the entire series. So I definitely want to continue with this, read 1 or 2 or maybe the entire rest of the series. These are short books. They're only about 60 pages each with big font, and you know, this is a middle grade series, so they're not particularly complex or anything like that. But I would like to be able to say that I've read the Spiderwick Chronicles, considering how much I do adore the film. It's like an urban fantasy, so we follow these kids, I think also in the east coast of the States. They move into this house with their mum after the split of their parents. They discover this entire like fantastical, magical world. It's really fun, also kind of like dark and deceiving, but told in like, you know, middle grade way. I don't know, it's got like a lot of heart in it, but it's also just like so creative and beautiful as well. Penultimately, we have Babel by Kuang. I have never read a book by this author, but I actually found a signed copy of this one in Oxford, which is where this book is set, and I was like, yep, you're coming home with me. Actually, it was on my Christmas list, so it was a gift, but I was very excited to be able to like own a copy of this book that I'd heard kind of incredible things about. There have been differing reviews since the initial kind of like flood of feedback for this book that have been less positive, but I definitely do want to go into this with an open mind and to kind of determine what I personally feel about it, not based on other people's opinions. Babel follows this guy, he's called Robin, I believe. Robin. Orphaned in Canton and brought to England by a mysterious guardian, Robin Swift thought Babel a paradise until it became a prison. Can a student stand against an empire? So Babel is this tower in this fictionalized version of Oxford. Babel is not actually a place in Oxford, but you have to just imagine it is. It's basically the heart of translation. So Robin is taken to Oxford. He basically sees the kind of darker sides to translation and colonization that's kind of rife within the century that is set, because this is the 1800s, 1836, the center of all knowledge and progress in the world, but things are not as sweet as they might once have seemed. This is meant to be quite a difficult read in terms of like its complexity, but I just feel like knuckling down with it basically. I have the time for it and I want to do it. Another book that I feel like knuckling down with because that's gonna definitely be necessary. This is thick, this book, and it also is epic and a lot, and it's very much like a high fantasy, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. So this book has been on my Goodreads TBR for, we're nearing a decade at this point, honestly. I've owned it physically as well since, my brother gave this to me. Did he date it? No. But I believe it was like 2019. Yeah, so it's kind of hugely unacceptable that I haven't read this yet. So I've decided that this year is the year. This is on my 2024 TBR, but particularly this season, maybe going into December or something like that. But I just feel like this is the time. The Name of the Wind follows this guy called Kavoth, who I believe is a bard. He basically sits down with this guy in a tavern and tells him his life story. Now, Kavoth is an unreliable narrator, so we're not sure how much of what he's saying actually went down, but we're also exploring the world and exploring this very kind of interesting character through his own eyes, through what he chooses to tell this random companion in the bar. This is meant to be a fantastic series. There are 2 books out in it so far, plus a novella, but the 3rd book has been in the works for also nearing a decade. People's naive hope that we would see book 3 has kind of dwindled the longer that we haven't seen it. So it is actually a wonder whether the series will ever be completed, which is the reason why lots of people put this off, because they don't want to get into a series that doesn't have an ending. But I actually don't really mind that. I especially don't mind starting the 1st book and then seeing how I feel from there, because I feel like, you know, if I really love this, then I'll want to continue on with the 2nd, and there will be a part of me that is disappointed that we don't have a 3rd. But if I'm not obsessed, and I will be glad to have got through this 1st book and see what I think of this world and Patrick Rothfuss's writing. Now's the time. Now's the time that I read this, and I'm really excited to finally see what I think of The Name of the Wind, because, you know, we've had our fun and games, and now it's time to get down to business and actually finally read this book. I might listen to this on audio while I read along, because I feel like that might be a more accessible way of tackling this beast, because he is over 650 pages. Nice. So there you have it. Those are the, I actually don't know how many there are, 10 or 11. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 books that are on my autumn TBR. I'm so excited to get to all of these. They're all ones that, like I said, I've been putting off for a long time, or I've just owned physically for a while, or ones that I feel like could be really impactful, life-changing reads. I definitely do want to disperse this with a couple of fun, like more contemporary works alongside them, but we'll see those, you know, in TBR videos and whatever. But these are the books I want to be kind of prioritizing across the season. Hopefully this video gave you some sort of insight into what I want to be reading, but also maybe some ideas of what to put on your own autumn TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these, what your thoughts are, because I'd love to, you know, feel encouraged by people's response to these. I feel like that's the only way that I'm going to be picking these up, is if I'm kind of spurred on by other people's enjoyment and hoping that I might get the same out of them. So do comment whatever you want down below. Be sure to check out the Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze book. That sounds like a great time, and I'm really excited myself to pick it up. So hopefully 1 or 2 of you are as well. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, to let me know that you did, and subscribe to stick around if you'd like to see more videos of mine and more videos going into the future, and see me get through some of these reads and review them in wrap-ups and things like that. Or if you would like any reading vlogs on any of these books, do let a girl know, because I'm very happy to deliver. That's what I'm here for, you know. Without further ado, I will leave you in peace, and I'll see you probably sometime next week for another video. Bye bye.